The difference between drafting the right wide receiver and drafting the wrong wide receiver could be going from you winning your league to you having to go to IHOP for 24 hours and eat a bunch of pancakes because you came in dead last, and that's your fantasy football punishment. Inside of today's video, I'm going to try to help you win your league, for you to be able to be the champion at the end of the season by giving you guys my top 40 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2025 fantasy football season. But before we get on into these wide receiver rankings, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It'd help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 40 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2025 fantasy football season. We begin with the S tier at the wide receiver position with my wide receivers 1 through 3, Ja'Marr Chase, CeeDee Lamb, as well as Justin Jefferson. Now, these are three guys that we don't need to have some crazy introduction for. No Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer level intro for these guys. We already know how great they are. Ja'Marr Chase was the Triple Crown winner last season, meaning he led the league in receptions, receiving yards, as well as receiving touchdowns, and I see zero reason as to why he can't repeat that. He is one of the best receivers in the National Football League, attached to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Joe Burrow, with a defense that is absolutely dreadful, so I have to throw the ball a ton late in games. Last year, he finished with 85.5 more PPR points on the season than the wide receiver number 2, who was Justin Jefferson, so I feel very confident in Ja'Marr Chase. Yet again, there's a reason why people are banging the drum for him to be the #1 overall pick in fantasy football drafts, and I completely believe that the consensus is correct there. I love Ja'Marr Chase this season. Again, there is zero reasons to worry. He is an incredibly safe pick this year. At number 2, we got CeeDee Lamb. Now, if you drafted CeeDee Lamb last season, you probably felt a little bit burnt, because even when Dak Prescott was healthy, CeeDee Lamb wasn't the most consistent wide receiver, and that is really because of the fact that he was dealing with the contract negotiations. His contract holdout only ended on August 26th, with the season starting in early September. So he wasn't really able to get on the same page as quarterback Dak Prescott, and that really led to a downfall of CeeDee Lamb for fantasy. I think with a full summer of them working together, bringing in George Pickens, who's going to be able to open up the field more for CeeDee Lamb, I feel very confident in a bounce back out of a wide receiver who's had 3 straight seasons inside the top 8 in terms of points per game. Again, last year was bad for him. You felt let down, you felt led astray, and he was still the wide receiver 7 in points per game. The final guy inside this tier is Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson is the most risky guy out of the top 3 inside the S tier. That's because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. Head coach Kevin O'Connell says he's clearly building up to the point where he's going to be 100%, and we're ready to get him back out there. So I'm not panicking at all, but there is reason to believe that there is a chance that he could re-aggravate that, and that could lead to more things. Now, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, so I'm not going to full-on panic on Justin Jefferson, but he is definitely the most risky of the group. 4 straight seasons inside the top 5, though, in points per game. All 5 seasons inside the top 10, so Justin Jefferson clearly deserves to be inside this S tier. Moving now to the A tier with my wide receivers 4 through 9, Malik Nabers, Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., as well as Drizzy Drake London. Now, Malik Nabers was a guy that I was talking up heavily last season. He was a guy that I told all of you guys to go out there and draft, and I'm going to tell you the exact same thing this season. While you were able to get him at a big discount last season, I am fine drafting him at the end of the first round. I really do believe that Malik Nabers has the upside to be the wide receiver 1. It doesn't matter that the quarterback room in New York is suspect yet again. Sure, it is better with Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, with Jackson Dart, as well as Jameis Winston, compared to Horsecock, Drew Lock, and Daniel Jones last season. But even if it is just, Russell Wilson's over the hill, he's not even that good, it does not matter. Malik Nabers is simply that elite of a talent. I think there's an argument that you can make that he is already the best receiver in the NFL. 5 games last season inside the top 10, and from week weeks 2 through 4, he scored 23 plus points in all 3 games. I understand that the Giants are far from the best team in the NFL. Honestly, they're closer to being the worst team in the NFL, but I don't think it matters. Malik Nabers is going to get forced the ball. 11.3 targets per game last season. I think he could do that yet again. At number 5, we got Nico Cousin, Let's Go Bowling Collins of the Houston Texans. Back-to-back seasons inside the top 9 in points per game. Last year, his season was ultimately derailed by the hamstring strain, but prior to him getting hurt, weeks 1 through 4, he scored 17.7 PPR points, 27.5, 12.6, and 33.1 points in those games. He is in a much softer wide receiver room now where he is clearly the alpha. There's no Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. Nico Collins has been the highest graded wide receiver according to PFF over the last 2 seasons. I have been talking up Nico Collins for years. I've been right in back-to-back years. I'm going to be right for a 3rd time in a row. 3 rings in a row. Shout out to Michael Jordan. I love Nico Collins this season, and the efficiency metrics are chef's kiss. Magnifique for him. 3rd in yards per out run, 9th in yards per target, 7th in yards per team pass snapped, 3rd in dominator rating, and 5th in explosive rating last season. Next up, we got Puka Nacua. Now, out of this group, Puka Nacua is the one that has the most risk. And it's not because Puka Nacua is hurt. It is because Matthew Stafford is dealing with an injury right now. Now, the reporting is relatively cloudy. It seems like he's going to be ready for week 1. Matthew Stafford is one tough son of a bitch. I remember a game when he was on the Lions where he broke his fucking hand, drove down the field, and won the game. The guy is simply built different. So I believe he will be good to go for week 1. But again, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sin, so don't take that as a guarantee. Don't take that to the bank and cash it because the check might not go through, right? Puka Nacua, back-to-back seasons inside the top 6 in points per game, top 3 last season. Only 5 wide receivers have hit 500 plus PPR points in their first 28 career games. Odell, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss, and number 5 is Puka Nacua. This guy is an incredible talent, even with Devontae Adams in town. Puka Nacua is not a guy that relies on touchdowns. Just 3 touchdowns last year, 6 the season prior to that. So if Devontae Adams is taking away the receiving touchdown upside, it doesn't really matter as long as Puka gets like 5 or 6. And if he breaks out and scores 10, you might be looking at the wide receiver 1. At number 7, we've got a true safety net, and that is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Death taxes Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 10 points per game wide receiver in 3 straight seasons. The guy is very efficient. He's attached to one of the best offenses in the NFL, and everyone likes to shit on Jared Goff, but Jared Goff continues to be incredibly accurate when he's targeting Amon-Ra St. Brown. I get that losing Ben Johnson hurts, but I think that's going to hurt guys more like Jameson Williams or Sam Laporta, not really the mainstays in the offense like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is going to get a healthy dosage of targets game in and game out. 22 total touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, 12 and 10 back in 2023. Again, a nice safety net to cast over your roster. At number 8, we got Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 4 in the season, wide receiver 12 in PPR points per game. Just like Malik Neighbors, I was kind of massaging the skin flute, metaphorically, of course, of BTJ last season, hitting him with the Gawk Gawk 9000 special because of how much I liked his tape at LSU, and he was putting belt to ass all of last season. Wide receiver 4 on the season, 12 in terms of PPR points per game, and only Jamar Chase scored more points from weeks 13 on after the Jags bye week, 22.9 PPR points per game, and that was with Mac Jones under center for a decent amount of games. The addition of Liam Cohen, I think, is going to push this offense to be even better, and a healthy version of Trevor Lawrence is better than Mac Jones. He was the wide receiver number 1 in the playoffs in terms of PPR, so I am very excited to see what we see out of his sophomore season. 8th in yards per out run, 15th yards per target, 9th in yards per team pass attempt, 2nd in dominator rating, all with the 50th highest target accuracy. So BTJ feels like the kind of guy that if he falls into the second round of your draft, you should be bricked up to select the man. At number 9, we got Drizzy Drake London, the 6 god himself. Wide receiver 5 in PPR last season, wide receiver 4 in PPR points per game. He ranked 3rd in targets, 7th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, and 9th in total touchdowns. The final 3 games of the season, I think, are very important to isolate because those are the final 3 games of the season are with Michael Penix Jr., not with Cole's Cash Kirk Cousins himself. In those games, he had 8 targets, 13 targets, and 18 targets. He scored 40.7 PPR points up against the Carolina Panthers in Week 18. Do I expect Drake London to get 12, 13, 14, 15 targets a game? Fuck no, baby. But I definitely think he could be in the 10-plus target per game range. Michael Penix Jr. and him clearly have developed a connection like Chris Bosh to LeBron James. So I am very, very excited for Drake London. He's been another guy that I've been talking up for years, and it feels like just now, finally, The Rock has come back. Finally, Drake London is now in the actual great position to succeed, and I think he does that this season. Again, the volume here is going to be massive. Moving now into the B tier with Ladd McConkey, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, and Garrett Wilson. If you guys have enjoyed today's video thus far, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money, and leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. If you guys want access to the rankings that I'm discussing in today's video, you can check out the Patreon for $12.50 a month. You will get access to my full PPR and half PPR cheat sheets, positional rankings, as well as my rankings versus sites like ESPN and Sleeper. Another way to get them is by signing up on Underdog using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. You will get your free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash, as well as receiving my draft guide, as long as you deposit $10 over on there and play with it. If you don't know what Underdog is, it is the best place to do best ball drafts in fantasy football. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft, and that's it. No waivers, no trades, no in-season management. They have Best Ball Mania this year, $25 to enter, $2 million to first place, $15 million in total prize. Make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description. Make sure you guys do check that out. And come draft with me on there, because I'll be ripping drafts all the time. Ladd McConkey of the LA Chargers. Now, there's going to be people in the comment section that say, Nick, I'm really scared because now Keenan Allen is back on the Chargers, and that means Ladd McConkey's value is going down, down, down. I don't think so at all. I think all that really does is all the potential targets for a guy like Quentin Johnston or Trey Harris's rookie year. I think those guys are just dead for fantasy, and I think that Keenan Allen's going to be sucking in all those targets like his name was Mia Malkova, but I do think that Ladd McConkey is going to be just fine. It was very clear that last year was a tale of two seasons. Week 1 through 8, he was averaging 12.9 PPR points per game. Weeks 10 through 18, 17.2 PPR points per game. He is still very clearly the #1 target on the LA Chargers. I'm not going to panic because old man Keenan Allen is in town. This is another guy that was feasting in terms of efficiency, 8th in target accuracy, 7th in yards per out run, 8th in yards per target, 8th in yards per team pass attempt, and 6th in EPA. I think he is going to be able to finish clearly inside the top 12 this season. At number 11, we got AJ Brown. Now, AJ Brown to me basically just feels like you are accepting you're going to get somewhere from the wide receiver 8 through 12. He's probably not going to win you your league by himself and have that super elite season where he ends up being the wide receiver 1 because the team runs the ball so much. That is fine, right? If you take AJ Brown, you're accepting you're going to get a good finish. That's fine. If you're looking to potentially draft the wide receiver 1, I don't think you can get that out of AJ Brown. But he's attached to an elite offense with an elite offensive line with a great quarterback in Jalen Hurts. The touchdown upside, he's a big boy. He could easily score 10+ touchdowns, but I don't really see him being the kind of guy that gets some huge, crazy season because they have Saquon, they have Jalen Hurts, they have a lot of rushing opportunities in the offense. But again, AJ Brown is a phenomenal talent. I'm not saying if you draft AJ Brown, you're a fucking buffoon. I have him ranked inside the top 12. But I just don't see that crazy league-winning upside. But again, the guy is incredible. At number 12, we have Tyreek Hill. Now, if you look at Tyreek Hill's career, he starts off as the wide receiver 32 in points per game back in 2016 in Kansas City. And last year, he was the wide receiver 29 in PPR points per game. But sandwiched in between that is all top 12 finishes. And as a Miami Dolphin, in terms of points per game, he has been the wide receiver 2 in 2023. And in 2022, he was the wide receiver number 3. So what is more likely to change? That Tyreek Hill, despite the fact that you watch the tape, he is just where he looks good. He's just completely washed. You know, he had the messed up wrist. He's just completely washed. He sucks donkey dick. And he's old and he can't be good again. Or is it that it was a one-year flop? It's not a steady decline. It was a one-year flop. And now with a healthy Tua, Tyreek more healthy, he could win you your league and be a top 3 wide receiver again. I think the latter is a lot more likely to end up happening. Tyreek Hill, to me, still one of the best receivers in the NFL. The efficiency stats show it. and so does the tape. He still looked really good. He was still getting open. He's still very fast. I saw a video of him running the other day. The guy's running like Barry Allen. He is speed. Shout out to Lightning McQueen. Shout out to Doc Hudson as well. At number 13, we got T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, he is the first wide receiver that we've talked about where he is not technically the wide receiver number one on his team. To me, in Cincinnati, it's a 1A and 1B. It's a yin and a yang. They both can coexist. We saw it last season. T. Higgins was the wide receiver 6 in PPR points per game. He had 4 top 9 finishes on the season, and I believe if he's able to stay healthy, he only played 12 games last season, missed a few games with a hamstring strain, 2 games with a quad strain, then T. Higgins could potentially finish inside of the top 5, the top 6. Again, the Bengals defense is dreadful. They are hard to watch. They are that dog shit. You could smell them straight through the screen when you're watching on CBS or Fox, right? And they have to throw the ball a ton late in games. Efficiency-wise, 5th in red zone targets, 9th in target quality rating, 16th in contested catch rate, 21st in dominator rating. The guy can play ball on a majority of teams in the NFL. He would be the wide receiver 1. At number 14, we've got Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 10 in PPR last year, 21 in PPR points per game, 3 straight seasons with over 147 targets, but nothing really ever ended up falling his way. Last year, he comes out the gate, comes out the jump on fire like a bat out of hell, and then they end up trading for Davante Adams, completely cucking Garrett Wilson. Now, when you look at the Jets wide receiver core, they don't have anyone of note outside of Garrett Wilson. Sure, this is an offense that wants to run the ball. Their identity is running the football, but when you only have one target, and that is Garrett Wilson, he is going to get force-fed yet again. 6th in true catch rate last year, 3rd in juke rate, I think. Sure, is Justin Fields the most prolific passer in the NFL? Is Justin Fields the second coming of Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady? Fuck no, baby. But he definitely does have that connection with Garrett Wilson from back at college at The Ohio State University. And I just feel like one of these years, Garrett Wilson is just too talented for him not to have that breakout year where he finishes inside of the top 12. Moving now on into the C tier at the wide receiver position, we got just 2 guys inside of this tier, and that is going to be Davante Adams as well as Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, I'm not fully slamming the brakes yet on Davante Adams with this Matthew Stafford news, but again, it is definitely something to worry about. Famously, notoriously, Davante Adams said when he was on the Raiders with Jimmy Garoppolo, who would be the starting quarterback if Stafford was hurt, that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to get him killed and that he needs to get the fuck out of there because he thought that he was going to throw him a hospital ball and it was going to be curtains for his career. That's pretty funny. Ultimately, though, he did back up that statement and just say he was a little bit tilted being in Las Vegas, which rightfully so. Davante Adams is just simply goated with the sauce. It's really that easy to describe him. 9 straight seasons as a top 15 points per game wide receiver, 8 of 9 seasons inside of the top 12. He now has Sean McVay just developing him plays to get the ball into his hands. The guy's simply phenomenal. He was able to even play well with the Jets being such a disaster last season. I don't think there's any fall off with Davante Adams. Frankly, I don't think this guy's ever going to fucking fall off. He's like Derrick Henry. Davante Adams is a beast, and he deserves all the fame. But again, if Stafford's not ready to go when we update this video at the end of August, when I do my final wide receiver rankings, then we might have to drop him down lower in the rankings because without Stafford, I mean, come on, man, we don't really love Jimmy G, do we? At number 16, we got JSN Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is now joined by Cooper Kupp in this offense. Now, he is definitely the best receiver on this team. I don't really think Cooper Kupp moves the needle too much, but I do definitely think going from Geno Smith to going to Sam Darnold is actually a step in the wrong direction. I think Sam Darnold was basically a puppet, shout out to Elmo, with the fist directly up his ass being controlled by Kevin O'Connell, the quarterback whisperer. And I think Sam Darnold in Seattle, this might be an oopsie, a great, grave mistake for the Seattle Seahawks. JSN has always had the talent. He's a great receiver, wide receiver 9 in PPR last year, wide receiver 20 in PPR points per game. But I heavily question how things are going to work with JSN and Cooper Kupp, how they're going to be used, moved around the formation, and how good is Sam Darnold. Their defense also could be sneaky good, and they might not be looking to pass the ball a ton, looking to run the rock a ton with Kenneth Walker III. So I'm kind of just indifferent on JSN. I don't think if you're taking JSN, you're just blowing your team up. You're saying, I'm going to just lose my league because I draft JSN. I don't think that's the case. But I also don't think he's just this locked and loaded league winner. Next up, we move on into the D tier here with Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Wiki, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Cortland Sutton. Terry McLaurin is currently holding out, and we talked about this with CeeDee Lamb earlier. If the holdout continues for Terry McLaurin, that connection with Jaden Stormy Daniels ends up depleting. Sure, they still have that connection, but if he's not at training camp working with the teams, if he's not there in preseason, if they were to even play Unc Terry McLaurin, then we start to feel like we need to drop Terry down because, for one, if he hasn't fucking signed, maybe he does actually hold out. Maybe he doesn't give. Maybe he doesn't sign the contract, big boy. Maybe he's really worried about not making the money. Or he's like, fuck it, just trade me. And then we end up in this terrible situation. Or we end up just getting the contract signed late on in August and he starts off slow but finishes fine. Terry McLaurin was already kind of a guy that I was pretty nervous about. Last year he scored 13 total touchdowns and he never scored above 7. The last time he scored 7 touchdowns was 2019. After that, 2020, 4 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns in 2021. 5 in 2022. 4 in 2023. I get Jaden Daniels is the Lord and Savior, metaphorically, of course, of the Washington Commanders. He is the next guy. He's the guy. I believe in Jaden Daniels, but 13 touchdowns, I don't think that's happening again. And when he was already the wide receiver 16 in PPR points per game last season, I think it's pretty clear that the wide receiver 7 finish was a little fugazi. Next up, we got Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy that I believe has all of the talent. He has all of the abilities. I made this joke in another video. He has Marvin Harrison Jr.'s genes. He's got great genes. Shout out to Sidney Sweeney. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, we didn't see much last season that would be like, wow, look at how great Marvin Harrison Jr. is. We are just solely believing in the fact that this guy has it. He had it in college. He had 2 games where he really bursted onto the scene. 29 points against the Rams, 23.1 up against the Dolphins. He had Jalen Ramsey looking like a fool with your pants on the ground and your hat turned sideways. The most recent report is that he has been the MVP of training camp. This comes from a Cardinals guy. He's been the most dominant player there. He is unguardable. I think that's the case. Let's just hope the team actually uses him correctly instead of sending him deep down the field go route. Yeah, let's throw 20,000 go routes to Marvin Harrison Jr. Even though if you gave him anything else, the DB would be on the floor in shock that his ankles have been shattered by Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. So he's a huge upside play. There's definitely risk because Kyler Murray looked kind of poopy, stinky last season. That was so stupid. At number 19, we got Wiki, DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. Now, the most recent report for DJ Moore has been that the team is looking to manufacture touches for DJ Moore out of the backfield as well as a wide receiver. So they're going to put DJ Moore next to Caleb Williams in the red zone. I actually saw them do that in a training camp clip. Very interesting. If he's getting red zone touches, that's even more opportunity for DJ Moore, and also tells you that they don't really trust DeAndre Swift as much as you might think they will. Caleb Williams has kind of looked bad in training camp, if I'm being honest, but I think Ben Johnson's going to figure this all out. DJ Moore is a guy that we should believe in more, but there's that looming talk about Rome Odunze and how great really is DJ Moore because he's been a little bit disappointing. But what's funny is everyone's going to be getting down on their knees. They're going to take the knee pads out and suck Rome Odunze dry. And then DJ Moore is clearly the wide receiver 1, and he just wins you your fucking league. He's like the wide receiver 3. I think that's also a very solid outcome, a reasonable outcome. And he's still good. 5th in target separation last year, 4th in juke rate. Next up, we got Mike Evans. Now, he has not finished outside the top 18 in PPR points per game since 2017. He's had 11 straight seasons with 1,000 or more yards, 6 of 11 seasons with 10 or more touchdowns. So when Chris Godwin was healthy last year, it was looking like Mike Evans was going to not be the best pick. But Chris Godwin might not be on the field to start off the season. So that's also good for Mike Evans. Mike Evans kind of just feels like the kind of guy where you pick him and you just kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get a reliable asset because that's what he always is. He'll probably miss maybe a game or two, but outside of that, he's going to be great. He's going to be solid for your fantasy team, but I don't think the days of him being like the wide receiver 4 or 5, I just don't really see that happening, especially with the strong praise that Egbuka's been getting. But again, Mike Evans, there's nothing wrong with picking him. He's just going to be super reliable for your team week in and week out. Next up, we got DK Metcalf. A lot of reports have been very positive on Metcalf's connection. Peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter and jelly, 5G LTE connection with DK Metcalf and with Ron Rodgers, Mr. Discount Double Check. DK Metcalf has always kind of been a guy that people really like to talk about in fantasy. I love drafting DK Metcalf, despite the fact that Tyler Lockett in my pocket skirt was getting so much action with them bringing in the draft with JSN. It just kind of seemed like DK Metcalf was always the odd man out. He'd have those big games because he's a freak athlete, but he was never really able to put up a very consistent season. And that's what I believe is going to occur in Pittsburgh, because outside of DK Metcalf, they've got Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and Robert Woods. So DK Metcalf is the clear alpha wide receiver on this team. I get this is more of a run-heavy team, but Rodgers calls his shots. He's going to get the ball to DK Metcalf. There's already reports that him and DK Metcalf were living together during camp. So during OTAs, I believe that was. And apparently, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like when you flush your toilet in the middle of the night, so DK Metcalf would take a piss, not flush the toilet, not wake him up, and then go flush it in the morning. Just an interesting tidbit of information. DK Metcalf has always had the ability. It's just he was never really pushed to the top by the offense, and I think the Steelers can do that for him. At number 22, we got Courtland Sutton, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos. Last year, just like with Ladd McConkey, it started off not so good. 9.7 PPR points per game from weeks 1 through 8, but weeks 9 through 18, 18.1 PPR points per game. I'm a believer in Sean Payton. I always have been. I believe in what we saw to Bo Nix as the season went along. Courtland Sutton still the alpha guy in Denver, and based upon the upside we saw late in last season, ranking Courtland Sutton outside the top 24 would be absolutely ludicrous. Now we move on into the E tier with wide receivers 23 through 35. Tatoria McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Smith, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Jacoby Myers, George Pickens, Jameson Williams, Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, and Ricky Bullets himself. T-Mac has been getting a lot of praise out of training camp as being the clear wide receiver 1, the most talented wide receiver on this team, which no shit when you're competing with Adam Thielen, Xavier, somebody touch my Leggett, and Hunter Renfrow, you're going to stand out. The Carolina Panthers were a super pass-heavy offense down the stretch of last season. When Bryce Young really turned things into another level, he went ludicrous speed last season. He kicked it into another gear, and I think if Bryce Young is able to continue to develop as a quarterback in the NFL, he's going to be very solid, and I believe in the system that the Carolina Panthers have. Tet McMillan's tape at Arizona was beautiful, like prime Abella Danger, so Tet McMillan should be in a great situation to be the clear alpha wide receiver in terms of targets in this offense. I'm not ready to crown him yet and push him all the way up to being a top 18-ish wide receiver, but I think it is fair to put him near the top because I think that he's a guy who, sure, it might start off slow. I know we're kind of more accustomed to rookie wide receivers just coming out the gate, just amazing, playing out of this world, but I think it might be a little bit slower for McMillan, but ultimately I think when it actually matters as you're getting ready to push into the playoffs and be in your fantasy playoffs, that's when McMillan is going to go absolutely beast mode. At number 24, we got Calvin Ridley of the Tennessee Titans. Now, last year, you could basically just take it in a ball, yell Kobe, and throw it directly into the garbage, or play that game that used to be on the iPhone where there'd be like a fan and you try to throw the paper ball into the basket and the fan would knock it over. That was just an absolutely elite game back in the day. So it was bad for Calvin Ridley. It was really bad, but he was 9th in explosive rating, 10th in yards per reception. He was 1st in unrealized air yards because Will Levis would throw the ball not even near him, not in the same territory, in a different country. He threw the ball directly to fucking Antarctica, okay? The ball was nowhere near him. It was a disaster. I think Cam Ward is going to fix things. Cam Ward has already said that Mr. Calvin Ridley is his partner in crime, so I am very excited. And that's just like a chick saying too, which is kind of funny. It's like, oh, that's my partner in crime. That's Lily, who sucked 7 dudes off last week. But yeah, I really like Calvin Ridley this season. I've always liked Calvin Ridley. I've been a Calvin Ridley truther for a long time, back in Atlanta in Duval with the Jaguars as well. But I just think the offense really held him back last year, and I think with better quarterback play, the ceiling is the moon for him. Next up, we got Stefon Diggs. Now, it seems like people have just forgotten about Stefon Diggs. They just forgot that he's had 15 plus PPR points per game in 5 straight seasons, and they just forgot that when the guy was healthy, 4 of 8 games last year in Houston, he scored over 18 points per game with Nico Collins. So you have to think that Drake May, a guy that a lot of people are saying is going to break out in his sophomore season. A lot of people are saying this is going to be a clear breakout campaign for him, that he was amazing at UNC. This is his time to shine. Then why not draft his wide receiver 1, a guy that, sure, he's been in the NFL since 2015, but still got it. Next up, we got Devontae Smith. Now, I talk about Devontae Smith all the time as a bad pick. Now, when I say a bad pick on Devontae Smith, I don't mean that Devontae Smith is going to end up just sinking the battleship of your team. There's going to be a hole into the metaphorical boat of your roster, and everything is going to go wrong because you drafted Devontae Smith, because I don't think that. I think he probably finishes as a top 24-ish wide receiver. But the problem with Devontae Smith is the same thing with A.J. Brown. For one, he has to play second fiddle to A.J. Brown. For 2, he is on one of the most, if not going to be the most run-heavy team in the NFL. Devontae Smith isn't built like A.J. Brown. He's not this big-bodied red zone beast, this red zone demon that a guy like A.J. Brown could be. So when you have Jalen Hurts, the tush push, you have Saquon Barkley, a brick shit house at running back, you're going to end up shit out of luck in the end zone a lot of times for Devontae Smith. The guy's still an incredibly talented player. It's just all situation for me. And 2 of his best games last season, and the only 2 games where he ended up seeing 2 out of 3 games, I should say, because he had 3 games last year with 10 plus targets. 2 of them were without A.J. Brown. So something to think about. Just something to think about. Next up, we got Rashee Rice. Now, they hit Jordan Addison Ray with the 3-game suspension. They have just done the Matrix move with Rashee Rice. They haven't hit him with anything yet. This could be 6 games, could be 3 games. I don't think it's going to be no games, but the fact that it's already August 7th and we don't have a suspension for Rashee Rice definitely just feels weird. Once we know the suspension length, he's a guy that if he gets hit with 3 games, I'm moving him way up. If he gets 6 games, he might fall down even further. He's a clear avoid in drafts right now, just based upon the fact that it doesn't feel like people are adjusting for him being suspended. But when the guy's healthy, he's the alpha wide receiver in Kansas City. The man he had 17 plus points in all 3 games he started last season. 29 targets. He was averaging 7.3 targets per game, 6 receptions per game, 72 receiving yards. And out of 3 games, he scored a touchdown in 2 of 3 games. So the reports are that he is going to be fully healthy. So as long as, the suspension isn't super lengthy, we're going to have to move him up. Next up, we got Zay Flowers. Now, Zay Flowers to me is just like Devontae Smith. Is Zay Flowers going to seppuku your fantasy team? No, Zay Flowers is going to be fine if you draft him. But I also don't think Zay Flowers will win you your league. For one, the touchdown upside is limited. When you have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, you don't really have to throw the ball to Zay Flowers in the red zone, right? And you also have Mark Andrews and then eventually Isaiah Likely. So Zay Flowers is like the 5th fiddle inside of the red zone for the Baltimore Ravens. He needs to have that big play, that deep down the field piss missile thrown from Lamar Jackson for him to find pay dirt. Just 4 total touchdowns last season, and he has scored a total of 9 touchdowns through his first 2 seasons. 4 touchdowns, 2024, 2023, 5 touchdowns. He's going to get the targets. He'll probably get over 1,000 receiving yards. I like the upside of him in any given week. But ultimately, he just doesn't feel like, he just is another one of these guys where it feels like you pick him, you're not going to go wrong by picking him, but you're also not going to end up getting this crazy breakout who ends up winning your league. Next up, we got Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, till the very next day. Now, the team losing Jonnu Smith really does open the door up for Mr. Jalen Waddle. Jonnu Smith last year had 88 catches, 884 receiving yards, and 8 total touchdowns. As a Dolphins fan, it was very frustrating when it's 3rd down and 5, and the play is screened to Jonnu Smith. Now, it did work sometimes, but those should be designed targets for, Devon Achane, or if you're even going to run a screen, which I don't really like because Mike McDaniel spams the screen, but give it to Jalen Waddle, give it to Tyreek Hill, but instead it was going to Jonnu Smith. So Jonnu Smith getting taken out of this offense, I just think further increases my likelihood of wanting to actually draft Jalen Waddle. He had a down year, but prior to that, he ripped off 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He had 142 targets in his rookie year. I don't think that's as likely to happen with Tyreek Hill there, but this is an offense that has to throw the ball. Their cornerback crew is as suspect as it gets. I think the Dolphins are going to be in a lot of shootouts like they live in Detroit, so I am a big fan of Jalen Waddle this season. Again, Nick, you have so much Dolphins bias. No, I don't. No, I don't, because I just told you right now, the Dolphins defense blows. The Dolphins defense is a complete and utter disaster. I think Jalen Waddle bounces back off of what we saw last season. Should be a super reliable flex for you. Next up, we got Jakobi Meyers. Now, Jakobi Meyers, kind of just underrated every year. He just really is. Wide receiver 19 in PPR last year, 23 in PPR points per game. He comes off the board nowhere near the top 28 picks. Back-to-back seasons inside of the top 24 in terms of points per game. He's the wide receiver 1 on the Raiders. They're going to want to run the ball under Pete Carroll, but now they have a better quarterback in Jonnu Smith, and even with shitty quarterback play in Vegas, Jakobi Meyers just kind of keeps ascending in the offense. 15th in contested catch percentage, 19th in expected points added. The only reason why I don't rank him higher is because Jakobi Meyers is just another guy where it doesn't really feel like you're getting that league winner. But if you're taking a lot of crazy upside shots, right? Maybe some more risky picks, right? Maybe you think Diggs is more risky, or maybe you think Pat McMillan is more risky. Maybe you feel like Marvin Harrison is a super big risk. Well, now you have that safety blanket on your bench with a guy like Jakobi Meyers. Next up, we got George Pickens of the Dallas Cowboys. It never really went right in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. Even though there was the big upside on a week-in, week-out basis, he just never was really able to get much consistency in Pittsburgh. But I do think that's going to occur in Dallas. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunity to just get the ball thrown his way. He's going to be running more routes. And that's really just because the Dallas Cowboys can't really afford to run the ball. I like Jaden Bonnie Blue, but they don't really have an elite running back room. They're going to have to be throwing the ball late, especially if Micah Parsons is no longer there to help out the defense. So Pickens had his career best last season, 77.2% success rate versus man, 77.6% success rate versus press, 83rd percentile. So again, the skill has always been there. We just kind of need to see it actually work out in Jerry's world. Next up, we got Jameson Williams, wide receiver 26 in points per game last season. Jameson Williams is heavy on being unreliable. He's never going to be consistent, but the upside is really, really there weekly for him to be the reason why you win. He was 5th in yards per target, 6th in yards per reception, 11th in target separation, 19th in route win rate. My biggest worry is I don't think a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown is successful because Ben Johnson was just this fucking offensive guru who was scheming Amon-Ra St. Brown open, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown just gets open, right? Jameson Williams, without Ben Johnson, will they design the plays good enough? Now, again, I don't pretend to be some fucking offensive coordinator, X's and O's guru, right? I make fantasy football videos. I'm not on the NFL sideline sitting next to fat bastard Andy Reid, right? Or Ben Johnson, right? I'm not that guy, pal, okay? But Jameson Williams could be a casualty of Ben Johnson leaving. Like, I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown will be, or Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think a guy like Jameson Williams could get kicked in the ass by that. He's a touchdown-dependent guy. I still like Jameson Williams, but where he's going, I just kind of feel like a lot of times, like, people are taking Jameson Williams sometimes over, like, Diggs or Ridley or Tet McMillan, and I just think that's a little bit stupid. Next up, we got Travis Hunter. Now, I was completely out on Travis Hunter about a week ago, because I thought that Travis Hunter might just be the kind of guy where you're just worried every week about, hey, how much is he going to play corner? How much is he going to be on offense? Or, you know what, maybe they're really easing him in on offense to start off the year. And he's playing a lot of defense, and you drafted him, and he's causing this hole in your roster, and you can't really trade him because he isn't worth diddly squat, but you know he has the upside, so you kind of just keep playing him, and he keeps fucking you directly in the ass, right? And that, I thought, was going to potentially be a problem, but according to the Rich Eisen show, Coach Speak Index tweeted this out. On the show, Liam Cohen said 80% of the offensive snaps for Travis Hunter. Now, a question is, can he hold up at the NFL level, playing corner and playing wide receiver? I don't know. I don't know if he can. Devontae Adams had a quote that says that he doesn't think that he would be able to do that. So we'll see. There is risk with that. But if Liam Cohen is really able to push this offense into a higher gear, if Trevor Lawrence is able to take that next step up into being the guy we thought he kind of would have been out of Clemson, then, you know, with what BTJ did last year, I think Travis Hunter could really be like an elite top 12 wide receiver. I think both of them can coexist, yin and yang. They can both eat. The skill is very clearly there, but there's still enough question marks to where I'm not going to be like, oh, you got to draft Travis Hunter. I still am not that high up on him. Next up, we got Rome Odunze. Now, I think Rome Odunze is better than DJ Moore. I do. Rome Odunze was just got destroyed last season by quarterback play. Bad luck or bad quarterback play, Fantasy Points Data tweeted percent of open air yards that were uncatchable. Adonai Mitchell, 52% of his open air yards were uncatchable. A.D. Mitchell, Rome Odunze, 48% of the time. 48% of the time. The motherfucker was open. The ball wasn't even catchable. It wasn't even near him. They threw the ball to the Chicago Bean, okay? Is Caleb Williams really going to get better? We'll see. Rome Odunze, the talent has always been there. He was a guy that I really liked out of college. Ben Johnson calls Rome Odunze an offensive piece that he never really had in Detroit. To me, he fits that prototypical X-receiver, Johnson said, where you can line him up outside the numbers, and provided he gets a one-on-one with the corner, he's going to win most of his matchups, slants routes, stop routes, go routes, you know, the whole route tree outside the numbers, and that's what I've seen from him, so he's a really detailed route runner. Sounds like some fellatio for Rome Odunze out of Ben Johnson, so I like that. You like that? Shout out Kirk Cousins. So I'm excited for what I see out of Rome Odunze, but again, I'm still not fully sold because it wouldn't shock me at all if DJ Moore's just the clear wide receiver one there, and he just has that crazy season. Next up, we got Slick Ricky Pearsall, Ricky Bullets, Ricky Rolex himself of the 49ers. Now, he didn't play the full season because the motherfucker got shot. He got shot. Someone tried to take his Rolex. He said, Dikembe, no, that's my Rolex, buddy. Say hello to my little friend. He shot the guy back, bang, bang, and he took his Rolex back. He's a beast. If a guy is willing to die for his Rolex, he's going to die to get the football. Unlike that pussy Cam Newton. That's a joke, of course. Cam Newton would shove me in a locker. He didn't die for the football, though, in the Super Bowl up against the Denver Broncos. We saw some big pops. Some fireworks like it was the 4th of July. Shout out to Najee Harris out of Ricky Pearsall last season. 17.3 points up against the Bucs. 28.7 points up against the Detroit Lions. He elbow dropped them. 18.9 points up against the Arizona Cardinals. 2 of those games came in the last 2 games of the season. Juwan Jennings, who knows how healthy he's going to be. Brandon Ayuk, probably going to be put on the PUP, the PUP, physically unable to participate, missing the first couple weeks of the season. Seems like Ricky Pearsall getting a little bit lucky, unlike last offseason. Now we move on into the F tier, the final tier here. F for final. Not actually. That's just how the order of the list goes. In the F tier, we've got Xavier Worthy, Professor X, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Olave, Josh Downs, and I want a bad bitch, Jordan Addison, right? And then Juwan Jennings is after that, but he's not included in today's video because he's wide receiver 41. Xavier Worthy. A lot of people are dick riding Xavier Worthy. A lot of people are just loving Xavier Worthy, despite the fact that the efficiency last year was bad. 76th in yards per route run, 94th in yards per target, 88th in yards per reception, 98th in true catch rate, 70th in explosive rating. 70.2% of Xavier Worthy's targets last season traveled 9 yards or fewer downfield. I get he'll probably start off hot when Rashee Rice is suspended. And if you drafted him, you just trade him, right? The Chiefs might be more pass heavy. The Chiefs might be looking to go back to their old identity from prior years before the last couple of seasons where they're super pass heavy. That may happen. And I like the talent of Xavier Worthy, but frankly, it feels like we're getting sold a lie. Like, people aren't looking into his actual metrics. They're just drafting him because he's on the fucking Chiefs. You got to get the Chiefs, which actually makes sense, right? You got to get the Chiefs. But Xavier Worthy just reeks of bust, in my opinion. Reeks of bust. Dude smells like some fucking chlorine. Next up, we got Jerry Jeudy. Now, Jerry Jeudy's been a guy that I've been steady hating on for a long time. He's had 2 out of 5 good seasons in the NFL last year and back in 2022. Cedric Tillman looked really good for that 3-game stretch. I don't want to just extrapolate that over the whole season and be like, oh, he's the wide receiver 1 on the team. Jerry Jeudy is the guy. The quarterback situation's gross there. Jerry Jeudy should be fine, but I think he'll probably end up finishing much worse than he did last season. I do like Jerry Jeudy, though, deep down. It's just, again, how many touchdowns is he going to score? And if he only scores 4 touchdowns like last season, what's really the upside in that? Next up, we got Chris Olave. Now, I'm starting to kind of turn the page more to liking Chris Olave, but there's still clear, warts in the profile. He's suffered 2 concussions last year. He missed 1 game with the first one and 9 games with the second one. He suffered just 3 games after the first one, so that's bad, right? That's a little scary. For 2, quarterback situation there is really bad, like Tyler Shock, Spencer Rattler, discount Pat Mahomes himself. I want to like Chris Olave because I do think he's talented, but I feel like it's just going to be another year of him being a swing and a miss. Next up, we got Josh Downs of the Indianapolis Colts, wide receiver 31 in PPR points per game last season. He missed 2 games with a high ankle sprain from preseason, missed another game with a shoulder injury in week 13. Last year, in terms of targets per route run, Josh Downs actually ranked 4th behind Puka, Malik Neighbors, and Drake London. There have been so many positive reports out of training camp that he is the number 1 receiver there. Still questions with AR versus Daniel Jones there, but Josh Downs has shown off his ability. 22nd in yards per out run, 19th in formation adjusted yards per out run, 5th in route win rate, 19th in dominator rating, 23rd in terms of fantasy points per route run. In terms of Matt Harmon's reception perception, he grades out very well on there. 90th percentile against man, 92nd against zone, 82nd against press coverage. So I like what I saw out of Josh Downs last year. Just need him to get a little bit more consistent. Final guy here is going to be Jordan Addison Ray. 3-game suspension. This guy prints touchdowns. I do worry, though, maybe J.J. McCarthy is worse than Sam Darnold. And with him having the 3-game suspension, maybe with Hawkinson more healthy this year, Hawkinson kind of becomes the number 2 behind Justin Jefferson. And then Jordan Addison kind of gets iced out. Still a great player, though. Definitely deserves to be ranked inside the top 40. But with the 3-game suspension, ultimately, the first 3 weeks, are they the most important weeks? No, the final 3 weeks are in your fantasy playoffs. But you got to get to the playoffs, right? And drafting a guy like Jordan Addison, especially if you're like a deeper league, right? Where maybe you're starting 3 receivers, 2 flexes, or 2 receivers, 2 flex. And if he's your second flex option, you probably would want someone else. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. If you guys would like access to my rankings, they're updated constantly. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon, the link in the video description, or by going on Underdog, signing up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the description, getting your gimme pick plus a first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I love you long time. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. And as always, good boy.